everybody, and welcome back to STEM Adventures. As you guys know, in STEM Adventures, we usually do a lot of cool things with tech and a lot of cool things with robotics and all that kinds of fun hands-on stuff. But because we've been apart for some time, that's really hard to do when we can't all be together and we can't all touch all the same robots and stuff. So with summer reading being here, and the theme of summer reading this year being Imagine Your Story, which is all about fairy tales, fantasy, and fun things like that, I decided that we are going to do some fairy tale STEM. So today we're going to do Rapunzel, and this version of Rapunzel is by Jasmine Brooke, and this is part of the Fairy Tale Fixers series, and it's a STEM series that says Fixing Fairy Tale Problems with STEM. So we are going to read all about Rapunzel, and then we are going to do an activity where we're going to have to help Rapunzel slide down from her tower, and if you can see here, using a zip line. So we're going to read the story, and then we're going to work on the activity. Long ago, in a land far, far away, lived a kindly couple named William and Rachel. They lived in a pretty cottage surrounded by beautiful woods. Next door to the cottage was the most delightful garden full of roses and many other pretty plants. All was good in their lives except for one sad truth. The couple was childless. Without a family, their world seemed empty. Yearning for children together, William and Rachel imagined their home filled with boys and girls who would bring laughter and happiness to their days. Every night before they went to bed, they prayed that they would be blessed with a child. The years passed until one day the couple's prayers were answered. At long last, they were going to have a baby. Filled with happiness, they thanked God. Overjoyed with their good news, the couple looked to the future and to the delight their child would bring them. But alas, Rachel soon fell sick and could eat nothing at all. William offered her every kind of tempting dish, from delicious pies to wonderful desserts. But despite all his efforts, his wife did not want to touch a morsel of food. Worried that she would waste away, William begged her to eat. "You must eat something, my dear," he pleaded with her. His wife looked at him, wearily weak with her sickness, and answered, "There is an herb called Rapunzel in the garden next door. I will feel better only if I eat that." William's heart sank when he heard Rachel's request. It was an impossible task. The garden next door was beautiful to behold, but it was owned by a wicked witch who would let no one enter. However, William loved his wife so very much that with a pounding heart, he decided to venture into the garden and gather that herb. One day, looking over the wall to make sure that the witch was not there, William found his moment. Carefully, he climbed over the fence and jumped into the garden. Looking about him, William saw the delicious herb of which his wife spoke. Trembling with fear, he plucked some of the plants and put them into the basket. Now, this is an activity that says make a greenhouse. This is not the activity that we are going to do. Hardly believing his good fortune, William quickly began to climb over the fence to his own garden. Suddenly, he heard a furious voice behind him. It was the witch. "You thief!" she screamed at him. "How dare you enter my garden?" And holding her hand aloft, she threatened to put a curse on him. William fell at her feet and begged, "Please do not curse me. If my wife does not eat Rapunzel, she will die. She's going to have a baby and is very sick." The witch stopped to think a while. "I will let you go on one condition. You will give me the baby after it is born." William knew that he had no option but to agree. With a heavy heart, he nodded his head. William took the herb to Rachel, who was delighted. She ate the delicious herb and immediately began to feel well again. William was overjoyed to see his wife happy and return to good health. However, his mind was filled with sadness at the terrible promise he had to make the witch. The days soon passed, and Rachel gave birth to the most beautiful baby girl. "What shall we call her?" William asked his wife. "Rapunzel," she answered, smiling, "after the herb, for she has saved my life and made me whole again." However, the couple's happiness was short-lived, for no sooner had Rapunzel been named than the wicked witch appeared at their door, and sadly, William had to confess his terrible promise. Weeping, Rachel handed over her beautiful baby, and with little more than a nod, the witch took her in her arms and carried her off. She took Rapunzel far, far away and locked her in a high tower. The tower had no doors or stairs, and there was only one window at the top. Rapunzel grew into a pretty child, but the only person she ever saw was the Wicked Witch. The years passed, and Rapunzel became quite beautiful, but by far her most beautiful feature was her abundant, glorious golden hair, which grew and grew and grew. As she sat alone all day, Rapunzel would brush her long golden hair and weep with sadness. At times, she would sing to lift her spirits, her beautiful voice echoing into the woods and far beyond. Every day, the Wicked Witch came to the tower with food. She stood at the bottom of the tower and shouted, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel would drop her long golden hair through the window. Then the witch used the hair as a rope to climb the tower. Inside the tower, the witch sat with Rapunzel and talked to her while she brushed her long, beautiful hair. She told Rapunzel about her beautiful garden and the flowers and herbs that she grew there. She told her about the wild animals in the woods and the wonders of the world beyond, but never ever did she tell Rapunzel about her real parents. Over the years, the witch grew to love Rapunzel as her own daughter, and she hoped that Rapunzel might come to love her as a mother, too. This is another experiment, test hair strength, but this is also not the one that we're going to do today. One day, a handsome prince passed by the tower. As within, Rapunzel brushed her hair and sang the most beautiful song. The prince was entranced by the glorious voice and immediately fell in love. Every day, he returned to the tower to hear Rapunzel sing. One day, as the prince listened to Rapunzel singing, the witch arrived at the foot of the tower. "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," the witch cried. The prince watched in amazement as a length of glorious golden hair fell from the window at the top of the tower, all the way to the ground. Then he saw the witch climb the tower. The next day, the prince returned to the tower, and he too called out to Rapunzel, "Let down your hair." Just as it had before, the length of beautiful hair fell from the tower window. Seizing hold of the golden rope, the prince climbed to the top of the tower, where he saw Rapunzel's beautiful face. The prince and Rapunzel gazed in delight at each other. The prince had never seen a girl as beautiful as Rapunzel, and she, in turn, fell in love with the handsome prince. After their first meeting, the prince returned every day to the tower to see his beloved Rapunzel. The couple spent many hours talking about the prince's life and the world far beyond the tower where his kingdom was. The prince told Rapunzel about his court, his wonderful palace, and the riches of his land. Rapunzel listened with eyes wide to his stories of a world she could hardly imagine. "One day I will take you there," the prince told her. "I hope as my bride." Filled with joy, the couple planned the life they would live together far away from the tower where Rapunzel was in prison. Alas, their happiness was short-lived, for as they talked, one day the witch arrived at the tower and called to Rapunzel to let down her hair. Rapunzel flung her hair out of the window, believing the witch would be delighted in her newfound love. However, the witch screamed with rage when she discovered the prince with Rapunzel. Furious at the intruder who planned to steal away her beloved daughter, the witch pushed the prince from the tower. The poor man fell into a thorny bush at the base of the tower and was instantly blinded. "You are no longer a daughter of mine," the witch screamed at Rapunzel, furious at her betrayal. She cut off Rapunzel's beautiful hair and shrieked, "You are banished forever into a desert far, far away." Many years passed. The blind prince wandered alone until one day he finally reached the same desert to which Rapunzel had been banished. One day the prince heard a familiar voice singing beautifully. He knew that the voice could belong to only one person, Rapunzel, and following the glorious sound, he found her. Rapunzel and the prince embraced, filled with joy, but as she realized that the poor prince was blind, Rapunzel was distraught. Tears of both happiness and sadness rolled down her cheeks, and one by one the tears fell onto the prince's eyes. Miraculously, as the tears touched his eyes, the prince regained his vision. He was blind no more. Joyfully, Rapunzel and her prince returned to his kingdom, where they lived happily ever after. And that is the end of our story, and this is the activity that we are going to do, make a zip wire. Imagine how the story might have gone if Rapunzel had just a few engineering tricks up her sleeve. But we have to make a little vehicle for her to go on first, and then we have to make the mechanism that lets her slide down the zip line. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and then to secure my zip line, I'm probably going to have to stop the video, hang it up, and then show you after it's done, because there's just no way that I can hold the phone with the camera and hang it up. It's not going to work. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to make your little vehicle so Rapunzel can slide down her zip line. So it tells you in the instructions that I'm looking at to use poster board. I don't have poster board, so I'm going to use construction paper, and we are going to see if construction paper works or not. So what it tells you to do is it tells you to roll your poster board, or in my case, construction paper, into a tube. So as you can see, I'm rolling this into a tube, and then it tells you to staple it closed. So, yeah, okay. So it is stapled shut. Now, I have a little bit hanging over the edge here. I don't think I want that. So I'll put one more staple in it. Okay. There's still a little bit here. It didn't roll all the way up. So I think I'm actually going to put a piece of tape on that because I don't want any air to be able to get into the tube and slow Rapunzel down. So pop a piece of tape on that, and I have my tube. Now, if it's open like this, where do you think all the air is gonna go when she's sliding? Into the tube. So we wanna block this off, but we don't want it to just hit the tube and the air to go everywhere. We want it to be streamlined. And if you did the NASCAR Acceleration Nation that we had, and you watched the videos from a couple of STEM classes back when I wasn't even allowed to be back at the library yet. It talked about how they put the splitters on the front of the car, and that's to make the air go a certain direction so that they can go as fast as possible. We're going to do something slightly similar with this. We're gonna put cones on the front and the back of the tube. So to make a cone out of construction paper, you just want to roll it so you have a cone triangle shape. I am going to tape mine first. I'm going to cut off the excess edges. So I'm going to roll it into a cone. You're going to tape it up. It said to glue the cones, but I think they used actual like snow cone cones in the instructions that I looked at. We're low budget here, so we don't have snow cone cones. And then after you make your cone, mine is a little small. I have to do some squishing to make it fit because it's too small. So it shouldn't look that crooked, but you get what you get. You don't get upset. So let's see if I can make the second cone slightly bigger so I don't run into that problem again. Ah, there we go. That's much better. That's gonna fit much better. Tape it to the tube. If you're a glue person and you'd rather use glue, that's totally fine. I don't like hot glue. I don't have tacky glue. And I don't feel like waiting for glue to dry. So this is a sad, sad, sad looking little rocket for Rapunzel. But that's how you do it. Maybe yours will come out looking nicer than this. The next thing that you have to do after that is done is you have to make the mechanism so that, because she's going on a zip line, she's got to slide down on the zip line. So to do that, you're going to use thread spools and paper clips. Now we have these wooden thread spools. If you have any thread or string at home at all, especially one that you've just used up, don't throw away the spool and just use what you have at home. But how you make these is you take the paper clip and you want to keep the bottom part so it looks like a J. And then you want to slide the top part in and as best as you can around. Probably don't need it to go that far, but make sure that you have a piece that hangs on top. This is not particularly easy to do, and bending the paper clip is pretty difficult, actually, I think. But at any rate, after you have it folded, it tells you to attach it to your poster board. You can tape it if you so choose. I feel like this is gonna go flying off, but we'll see. Kind of slid mine under the tape where I taped it shut, but I don't know if that's gonna work or not. The whole idea is this is how you're gonna attach it to the Zipline wire. The next thing I'm gonna do is I am going to hang up the wire. So I'm gonna use yarn as my wire. And what you wanna do when you hang it up, you want it to be on an angle. You don't want it to be straight like this. You want it to be on an angle, because if it's like this, she's never gonna move, because where is there for her to go? Think about when you roll a ball down a hill. If you put a ball on a flat surface, does it go anywhere? It doesn't go anywhere. But if you put a ball on a hill, because of the slope of the incline, it starts to roll because gravity works on it. So that's gonna be in place here as well. We don't wanna put the string flat across. We want to put it at an angle so that she slides down. So I am going to thread this through here, and I am going to hang one end from the top of the door that goes into the big room. I'm going to put it in the door so it stays secured, and I'm going to tape the bottom half somewhere. Okay, so let me show you. We have the zip line up. It's tied to the back of the door, and it's taped to the chair. So the only last thing that we have to do is we have to get Rapunzel attached to the rocket. And I think to do that, I am going to tie her to it, because I don't want to make it super permanent. This is one of our free play Barbie dolls. So I am just going to put a piece of yarn around her, and I'm going to tie her to the rocket. As you can see, Rapunzel is now tied to the rocket. I am going to pull her up to the top of the zip line, and let's see. Ta-da! She works. Let's see if she'll still do it one more time. So 1, 2, 3, Rapunzel! And she made it. So even though we used construction paper instead of poster board, it was a little tricky for me to get the paper clips into the spools, and I didn't use regular cones. I used tape instead of glue. It all still worked because gravity still works, force still works, airflow still works. So we were able to help Rapunzel escape from her tower with her hair. Now, this is what we learned from doing the STEM experiment. The gondolas, or the little rocket ships with the most streamlined shape, like the one in your first experiment, or in our case, our only experiment, would have performed most effectively. As air passes over an aircraft, it creates a force called drag. The force slows the aircraft. Streamlined shapes reduce the amount of drag acting on the shape, so they pass through the air more easily than non-streamlined shapes. We did not use balloons, so we didn't do the second part of what that was. But that's similar to what we talked about in the NASCAR Acceleration Nation, where we talked about drag and speed and the splitters on the cars. So you learned something new today, probably something you can apply to airplanes, rocket ships, and anything really that has to move through the air. So we hope you enjoyed that fairy tale STEM. We're going to be doing a couple more throughout the summer. We hope you're enjoying summer vacation and summer reading, and we can't wait to see you back at the library soon. Have a great day.